There comes a moment in every life when the weight of the past feels unbearable, when dreams seem shattered beyond repair, and the road ahead looks lost in shadow. Yet, within that very moment of despair, a quiet truth whispers, "You are never too broken to begin again." Life's greatest miracles are not born in the comfort of success, but in the silent crucible of defeat. Every crack in your soul is not a mark of failure, but an opening for light to enter, a divine invitation to rise higher than before. The mind, though unseen, is the most powerful tool ever given to man. It possesses the remarkable ability to reimagine, recreate, and rebuild life from the ashes of what once was. What separates the ordinary from the extraordinary is not circumstance, but the decision to think differently. When a person resolves to believe that their story is not over, when they dare to plant a new thought in the garden of their mind, they set in motion unseen forces that conspire to bring that vision into being. The world may say, "It's over," but the mind that refuses to quit declares, "It has just begun." To begin again is to master the law of renewal. It is to understand that no defeat is permanent unless accepted in the heart. You may have lost wealth, opportunity, or even relationships, but the moment you awaken your inner faith, you possess the one thing greater than all: your creative power. Every successful life you admire was once a story of failure rewritten by perseverance. They did not escape storms, they learned to steer through them. The same principle is available to you right now, if only you choose to see beyond the ruins and envision the reconstruction. Brokenness is not the end, it is preparation. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest flame, and the most resilient spirit is shaped through the pressure of adversity. When you look back on your pain, do not curse it, study it. Every challenge carries a hidden lesson. Every loss conceals a gift. Pain is a teacher more valuable than comfort ever could be. It awakens the sleeping parts of the soul and demands that you remember who you were meant to become. The person you will be on the other side of this trial is far greater than the one who entered it. But to begin again, belief must come first, not in the world, not in others, but in yourself. Faith is not a fragile hope, it is an unwavering certainty that even now, unseen opportunities are forming in your favor. When you hold a vision so firmly in your mind that no doubt can break it, that vision begins to materialize through the law of persistence. Every thought repeated with conviction becomes a command to reality. Speak to yourself as one who has already triumphed, and soon life will echo back that triumph. Yet faith alone is not enough. Renewal demands discipline, the daily act of directing your thoughts, words, and habits toward your higher purpose. Success is never accidental. It is designed through deliberate thinking, steady effort, and unwavering self-control. Begin again with structure. Let every morning become a declaration of your new intention. Guard your mind as you would a treasure, for it is the workshop of destiny. Replace every thought of limitation with one of expansion, and every day will move you closer to the life you envision. Remember, broken things can be rebuilt, but they seldom take the same shape again. And that is the beauty of transformation. You are not meant to return to what you were. You are meant to rise as something more, stronger, wiser, and more aware of your power. Every setback is simply life rearranging itself to lead you to your true design. The fragments of your past are the raw materials for your future masterpiece. So when you feel too damaged, too late, or too lost, pause and listen to the deeper truth within you. You still breathe, and while you breathe, you can build. Life is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to begin. One thought, one decision, one step at a time. Because no matter how broken you may feel, the moment you choose to rise, the universe begins to rise with you. You are never too broken to begin again. The power of renewal is the invisible strength that flows beneath every human experience of struggle and redemption. It is the quiet certainty that no matter how deep the fall, there exists within each individual the potential to rise again with greater clarity and purpose. Renewal is not an external event, but an internal awakening, a realization that life's setbacks are not barriers, but signals for transformation. When a person reaches the edge of despair and believes there is nothing left to give, that very emptiness becomes the birthplace of renewal. It is in our darkest nights that the spark of change is conceived. For only when everything familiar has been stripped away do we begin to recognize the infinite reserves of power within. The power of renewal does not erase the past, it redefines it. It turns every wound into wisdom, every loss into direction, and every ending into the seed of a new beginning. This law of renewal works through the mind, for the human mind is the workshop of all creation. When a person changes their thought patterns, their entire life begins to reorganize itself accordingly. A broken situation cannot remain the same when the thinker within decides to perceive it differently. The mind governs emotion, behavior, and ultimately destiny. The moment one accepts that life's value is not determined by what has been lost, but by what can still be created, they step into a realm of unlimited power. Renewal begins with a single conscious decision: to think higher than one's circumstances. This decision acts like a magnet, drawing new opportunities, ideas, and people into alignment with that higher vibration of thought. The individual who harnesses this power begins to see life not as a series of closed doors, but as a continuous unfolding of possibilities waiting to be claimed. Every broken experience contains within it the code of renewal, but few recognize it because they remain fixated on the pain rather than the purpose behind it. Those who understand that destruction often precedes construction begin to welcome their hardships as necessary steps in their evolution. The universe is not cruel when it removes something from your life. It is clearing space for something better. Renewal asks that we trust this process, even when we cannot see the outcome. It demands that we surrender the need to control every detail, and instead focus on nurturing the seed of new vision planted within our hearts. When that seed is watered daily with faith, gratitude, and determination, it eventually grows into the harvest of transformation. No storm lasts forever, and once the rain has passed, the soil is always richer than before. So too is the human soul after enduring the tempests of life. The power of renewal also teaches that self-compassion is not weakness but wisdom. Many fail to rise because they condemn themselves for falling. They dwell in guilt and shame, replaying past mistakes until the future becomes a reflection of regret. Renewal, however, invites forgiveness, not just toward others, but toward oneself. To forgive is to release the heavy chains that bind one to yesterday's failure. It clears the mental space necessary for creation to begin again. A person who forgives themselves steps back into alignment with their creative source, reclaiming the ability to design a new reality. The mind cannot build while burdened with guilt. It can only create when liberated by understanding. Renewal is, therefore, not a single act of will, but a continual process of releasing what no longer serves the higher vision of who we are becoming. This power does not favor the privileged, the educated, or the fortunate. It belongs to anyone willing to believe that they still have a purpose to fulfill. History is filled with individuals who rose from unimaginable circumstances because they refused to let their brokenness define them. They understood that the mind, once awakened, can reconstruct even the most shattered life. Renewal asks for courage, the courage to begin again when the world has stopped believing in you, the courage to rebuild when every reason for quitting seems valid, and the courage to trust the unseen power that whispers, There is more within you. Those who obey that whisper are never the same again. When renewal takes hold of the spirit, the individual begins to radiate a quiet confidence. They no longer measure life by what was lost, but by what is yet possible. Their energy shifts, their language changes, and their actions begin to align with a higher purpose. Life, in turn, responds to this internal change. New doors open, resources appear, and paths that once seemed impossible begin to unfold naturally. Renewal is not a miracle that happens overnight. It is the gradual rebuilding of the inner world until it becomes strong enough to reshape the outer one. It begins in the silence of belief and culminates in the manifestation of destiny. Thus, the power of renewal is the secret to human resilience. It is the reason a person can rise from failure stronger than before, why hope can emerge from despair, and why no individual is ever too broken to begin again. It is the spiritual law that transforms endings into beginnings, darkness into light, and defeat into wisdom. Renewal is not about what happens to you, it is about what awakens within you because of what happened. Once a person grasps this truth, they no longer fear the fall. They understand that every fall is an invitation to fly higher. The law of mental rebirth declares that transformation begins not with the change of circumstance, but with the renewal of thought. Every event that manifests in a person's life originates first in the invisible realm of the mind. What we think consistently becomes the framework through which life expresses itself. When an individual accepts defeat in their mind, their outer reality aligns with that belief. When they cultivate the thought of victory, the same law responds by arranging conditions in favor of success. Mental rebirth is, therefore, the sacred process of cleansing the mind from the debris of limitation and planting within it the seeds of new possibility. It is the conscious choice to break away from the hypnosis of fear, failure, and past experiences, and to create from a new vibration of belief. This law operates without bias. It does not distinguish between positive or negative thought. It simply gives form to whatever is held with intensity and conviction. Many people remain prisoners of old patterns because they unknowingly think in harmony with their suffering. They replay their failures, dwell on injustices, and imagine the worst outcomes until their mind becomes the architect of their misery. To be reborn mentally is to interrupt this cycle, to withdraw energy from thoughts of weakness and direct it toward visions of power. When a person begins to think as though success is already assured, every fiber of their being starts to align with that idea. Their emotions gain strength, their posture changes, and their energy radiates confidence. Soon, opportunities appear that mirror this new internal state. The mind is a living magnet that draws to itself the essence of what it habitually contemplates. This is why renewal of thought is the foundation of all progress. You cannot rise to new heights while entertaining the same ideas that once held you down. Every great transformation begins with a new mental image, an image so vivid that it overshadows the memory of failure. The law of mental rebirth requires that you take control of your inner conversation. For your dominant self, talk becomes the script that your life enacts. When the inner voice begins to affirm courage, worth, and abundance, the outer world begins to shift in response. Circumstances that once seemed immovable bend to the authority of a renewed mind. Mental rebirth is not an escape from reality. It is the conscious creation of a new one. It teaches that man is not a victim of environment, but a master of inner environment. And through that mastery, he shapes his external conditions. A person may live in poverty yet carry a wealthy mind, and in time, wealth must come to match that inner state. Likewise, one may dwell in comfort yet carry a poor mind, and that poverty will eventually appear in visible form. To be mentally reborn is to choose the higher vibration in every moment, to think in terms of growth when the world whispers defeat, to see possibility where others see limitation. This mental posture creates an atmosphere of expectation that magnetizes the very circumstances required for fulfillment. The law of mental rebirth demands persistence, for the mind must be trained just as the body is conditioned. Old habits of thought will attempt to reassert themselves, reminding you of past pain and doubt. Each time this happens, you must reaffirm your new mental identity. Speak to your mind as a commander, not a servant. Replace the language of fear with the vocabulary of faith. This consistent discipline gradually rewires the subconscious, transforming it from a storehouse of limitation into a generator of power. Once the subconscious accepts a new idea, it works tirelessly to bring it into physical expression. This is why even the smallest shift in attitude can eventually alter the entire direction of a person's life. Mental rebirth also requires imagination. The mind must be given an image of what it seeks to create. Visualization is not fantasy. It is the blueprint of reality. Every architect first builds in the unseen before a single stone is laid. Likewise, every reborn thinker must construct in thought what they wish to experience in life. The clearer the mental image, the faster it attracts its equivalent in the outer world. To imagine yourself renewed, whole, and successful is to begin living the truth inwardly long before it manifests outwardly. The universe simply follows the pattern impressed upon the mind. When an individual fully embraces the law of mental rebirth, they no longer wait for life to change. They become the cause of change. They understand that no circumstance has the authority to define them unless they accept it in thought. A reborn mind operates from a state of calm assurance, knowing that every challenge carries within it the seed of advancement. Such a mind no longer reacts to failure, but uses it as fuel for growth. It speaks to life with conviction, directing energy toward the realization of its purpose. The person who lives by this law becomes a conscious creator, building their destiny thought by thought, belief by belief, until their inner world and outer world stand in perfect harmony. The law of mental rebirth is, therefore, the ultimate act of freedom. It teaches that nothing outside you can permanently hold power over you, unless you grant it permission in your mind. The moment you change your dominant thought, you alter the vibration of your existence, and life must reorganize itself accordingly. To be mentally reborn is to awaken to the truth that your past is not your prison, but your preparation. Every new thought is a doorway, and every belief a foundation upon which your future is built. The one who learns to master their mind becomes the master of every circumstance, and in that mastery discovers that renewal is not an occasional event. It is a way of living. Pain as the seed of power is one of life's most profound truths, yet it is one that few are willing to embrace. Most individuals see pain as an enemy to be avoided, an obstacle that prevents peace and progress. However, those who rise above ordinary thinking understand that pain is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the silent instructor that shapes character, sharpens focus, and strengthens will. Every experience of suffering carries within it a hidden benefit, a lesson concealed beneath the surface of discomfort. When viewed correctly, pain becomes the raw material from which greatness is built. The strongest individuals in history were not those who escaped adversity, but those who transformed it into fuel for their purpose. They discovered that pain, properly understood, is not a barrier, but a bridge between who we are and who we are meant to become. Pain refines the human spirit the way fire refines gold. It burns away weakness, self-deception, and dependency, leaving behind the pure essence of strength and truth. When a person suffers loss, failure, or betrayal, they are given the opportunity to re-examine their foundations, to see what is real, what is enduring, and what must be released. Many resist this process, clinging to comfort and certainty. But growth never occurs in the absence of pressure. Just as a seed must break to give birth to new life, so too must the human heart crack open for wisdom to emerge. Pain does not destroy, it reveals. It exposes what was hidden beneath the surface and invites us to rebuild from a place of authenticity. Those who understand this no longer fear hardship, they welcome it as the forge of transformation. Every wound, when examined through the lens of purpose, holds instruction for the future. A disappointment may teach patience. A loss may awaken gratitude. A failure may cultivate humility and wisdom. The key lies in perspective. If one views pain only as suffering, it multiplies in power. But if one views it as schooling, it becomes sacred. It is within the seasons of trial that the mind learns endurance and the soul learns surrender. These are the virtues that make a person unshakable. When adversity comes, the average mind asks, "Why me?" The renewed mind asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single shift in question changes everything. Pain ceases to be a prison and becomes a teacher. Those who master this way of thinking turn every wound into wisdom and every setback into strategy. Moreover, pain awakens inner resources that comfort could never uncover. In times of struggle, we are forced to reach deeper into ourselves, to discover strength we did not know existed. When everything external is taken away, what remains is the internal: faith, resilience, and vision. These qualities, once awakened, never fade. They become part of one's permanent character, allowing one to face future storms with greater calm and confidence. The person who has endured pain and risen from it carries an invisible authority, a quiet assurance that cannot be learned from books or speeches, but only from experience. They speak with the weight of authenticity because their wisdom was paid for in tears and perseverance. Pain also purifies desire. It separates what we merely want from what we truly need. When life presses hard upon us, the unnecessary falls away, and our real purpose stands revealed. This clarity is one of pain's greatest gifts. Many discover their life's mission only after walking through seasons of deep struggle. The comfort zone clouds vision, pain clears it. It refocuses the mind on what truly matters and ignites a hunger to live with greater intention. Out of suffering is born the determination to rise, to build, to become. Those who have suffered deeply often love more deeply, serve more selflessly, and live more passionately because they have seen life's fragility and understand its worth. To treat pain as the seed of power is to engage with it consciously, not to flee from it in fear. The wise person asks, "How can I use this energy to grow?" They do not waste suffering through complaint, but transform it through action. Every tear becomes a teacher. Every struggle becomes a lesson in endurance. Such individuals understand that energy cannot be destroyed, only redirected. The energy of pain, when channeled with intention, becomes the force that drives invention, art, leadership, and change. Many of the world's greatest creations were born from the fire of suffering. A poet's heartbreak, a leader's oppression, a dreamer's rejection. What the world calls tragedy, the soul calls training. Ultimately, pain reveals power because it teaches the mind that nothing external can define or limit the inner self. When you endure pain and continue to move forward, you demonstrate mastery over circumstance. You prove that your spirit is stronger than your suffering. Every victory over pain expands inner capacity, building courage and confidence that no comfort could ever provide. Pain humbles the ego but empowers the spirit. It dismantles illusions but strengthens truth. Those who embrace it not as punishment, but as purpose discover that the very thing meant to break them has actually built them. Pain may be the greatest paradox of life. It feels like destruction, but in truth, it is the process of creation. Out of its fire, the soul emerges renewed, powerful, and unafraid. Faith in motion is the active force that transforms mere belief into tangible creation. It is not the quiet wish of a hopeful heart, but the dynamic power of conviction expressed through action. Many speak of faith as though it were a passive state of waiting, yet true faith is movement. It is the confident stride taken before the ground appears beneath the feet. To possess faith is to see beyond visible reality and act according to the truth of the unseen. It is the invisible energy that bridges imagination and manifestation, turning ideas into achievements and visions into victories. The individual who understands this law does not sit idle waiting for opportunity. They create opportunity through persistent action guided by inner certainty. Faith is not a feeling. It is a deliberate choice to trust the process even when results are hidden. When faith moves, it activates a spiritual principle that causes unseen forces to respond in harmony. Life itself rearranges according to the vibration of belief. A person who believes in their purpose with unwavering conviction begins to attract circumstances, people, and resources that align with that purpose. This is not coincidence but correspondence, the outer world reflecting the inner world. Every action taken in faith sends a signal to the universe declaring readiness, and the universe answers accordingly. Faith in motion does not demand evidence before acting. It acts and lets evidence follow. Those who wait to see before they believe remain stagnant, while those who believe before seeing become pioneers of possibility. The act of moving forward despite uncertainty becomes a declaration of authority over fear and doubt. Faith in motion is rooted in imagination. The mind must first conceive a vision so clear that it feels more real than current conditions. This vision becomes the compass directing every decision. When one walks in faith, they no longer ask, "What if I fail?" but instead affirm, "What if I succeed beyond measure?" Such thinking energizes the body and sharpens the will. It awakens creativity and endurance, for the person who acts in faith draws strength from an invisible source. This inner power defies logic and transcends limitation. Many breakthroughs occur not because the individual had superior skill, but because they refused to surrender to doubt. Faith turns the impossible into the inevitable for those who refuse to compromise their vision. However, faith without movement is lifeless. It is like a seed never planted, full of potential but barren of result. Many believe mentally but never express that belief through consistent effort, and so their faith remains theoretical. True faith expresses itself through disciplined persistence. It is visible in the person who continues to work toward their dream, even when the reward seems distant. It is evident in the one who prays with conviction and then acts as though the prayer is already answered. This alignment between belief and behavior is what gives faith its creative power. The universe does not respond to idle words, it responds to demonstrated conviction. Every step taken in faith writes a new instruction into the fabric of reality. Faith in motion also demands patience, for manifestation follows the rhythm of divine timing, not human impatience. The one who walks by faith understands that delay is not denial but development. Every moment of waiting refines the inner strength necessary to sustain the eventual blessing. Faith teaches endurance by requiring trust in what cannot yet be seen. The farmer plants in faith, knowing harvest will come in its appointed season. Likewise, the dreamer must act in faith, trusting that the unseen process is working even when nothing seems to change. This inner trust eliminates anxiety and replaces fear with focus. The individual learns to move with calm confidence, knowing that every effort sown in faith must yield its return in time. Moreover, faith in motion transforms the believer themselves. Each act of faith expands consciousness, proving that the limits once believed real were merely illusions. As a person continues to move in faith, they begin to operate on a higher frequency of thought. Fear loses its grip, and clarity takes its place. Decisions become guided not by doubt, but by intuition, the quiet voice of inner knowing that emerges when faith silences fear. This transformation of mind and spirit creates magnetism. Others are drawn to the energy of someone who believes so deeply that their conviction inspires action in those around them. Faith, therefore, becomes contagious, igniting courage wherever it is expressed. The greatest victories of life have always been born from faith in motion. Every discovery, invention, and movement that changed the world began with someone who dared to act on an unseen idea. They faced uncertainty, ridicule, and failure, yet they pressed forward because faith would not let them quit. This forward motion attracted the circumstances that eventually made their dream visible to all. Faith always begins in solitude, but ends in manifestation. The unseen becomes seen through the unwavering will to act. Faith in motion is not reckless optimism, it is intelligent trust. It requires alignment between thought, emotion, and action. To think in faith but act in fear is to cancel one's own power. The true believer harmonizes inner conviction with outer expression, creating a resonance that moves both the seen and unseen realms. Every action taken with faith, no matter how small, carries divine weight. It declares to the world that you are co-creating with the infinite. The law of faith rewards those who persist despite contradiction, for it recognizes movement as proof of belief. The more one acts in faith, the stronger that faith becomes, until it evolves from fragile hope into unshakable certainty. In its highest form, faith in motion becomes a way of life. It is the rhythm by which visionaries build, leaders inspire, and dreamers create. It teaches that one must walk boldly into the unknown, trusting that each step forward will reveal the next. The universe honors movement, it meets the brave halfway. Faith that stands still fades into doubt, but faith that moves becomes unstoppable power. To live with faith in motion is to live as a creator, to command reality with conviction, to shape destiny with deliberate thought and fearless action, and to know that every step taken in trust brings the invisible closer to sight. The blueprint of self-discipline is the foundation upon which all true restoration is built. It is the governing principle that transforms chaos into order and ideas into achievement. Without discipline, even the strongest faith and the brightest vision remain suspended in the realm of imagination. Discipline is the bridge between intention and manifestation. It is the invisible architect that constructs success brick by brick, decision by decision. Many individuals desire transformation, but few are willing to embrace the structure it demands. Renewal of life is not sustained by emotion but by consistency. Feelings may inspire a beginning, but discipline ensures completion. The disciplined mind governs itself. It refuses to be swayed by impulses or circumstances, because it understands that freedom is not the absence of restraint but the mastery of it. Self-discipline begins in the mind. Every action originates from thought, and therefore, the one who controls their thinking controls their destiny. A disciplined thinker monitors the quality of their thoughts the way a craftsman inspects the tools of his trade. They do not allow fear, doubt, or laziness to dominate their mental workshop. Instead, they replace every unproductive idea with thoughts of precision, purpose, and persistence. This mental vigilance creates a framework of clarity that guides every decision. The undisciplined mind, on the other hand, drifts like an untamed river, scattered, reactive, and unfocused. Discipline channels that river, turning its wild flow into a force capable of generating power. Every great life is the result of this mental direction, a steady and intentional shaping of thought, until it serves the vision rather than sabotages it. True discipline is not imposed from the outside, it is cultivated within. It grows from the awareness that no external control can produce lasting order unless internal mastery is achieved. A person may follow rules temporarily, but unless they develop inner regulation, they will eventually return to disorder. Self-discipline transforms from obligation into desire when one begins to experience its rewards, clarity of purpose, inner peace, and tangible progress. It teaches that every small act of control over the self strengthens character and increases confidence. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are trustworthy, and that belief becomes the foundation of self-respect. Discipline, therefore, is not punishment but empowerment. It liberates you from the tyranny of inconsistency. The blueprint of self-discipline also includes mastery over time. The disciplined person values time as life's most precious currency. They understand that every wasted moment is an opportunity surrendered to mediocrity. They live by the principle that structure breeds freedom. By planning their hours and prioritizing their efforts, they gain more time for creativity, rest, and growth. They are not enslaved by urgency because they live by design, not default. Each day becomes a deliberate step toward a larger purpose. The undisciplined person, however, is constantly at war with distraction. Their attention is scattered across trivial pursuits, leaving little energy for the work that matters. Discipline restores control over attention, teaching that focus is the highest form of intelligence. Self-discipline also governs emotion. While passion is a powerful fuel, it can burn uncontrollably without structure. Discipline channels passion into productivity. It prevents the emotional extremes of overconfidence and despair by anchoring behavior to principle rather than mood. The disciplined individual works when inspired and works when weary. They do not negotiate with excuses because they understand that consistency creates momentum, and momentum produces mastery. This emotional steadiness separates achievers from dreamers. Those who rely on motivation achieve occasionally, but those who rely on discipline achieve continually. Discipline transforms action from a choice into a habit, and once a habit is formed, success becomes inevitable. Furthermore, the blueprint of self-discipline operates according to the law of repetition. Every repeated act engraves a pattern into the subconscious, shaping behavior automatically over time. When a person commits to daily excellence in thought and action, they condition the mind to seek progress instinctively. What once required effort becomes effortless. The student who studies daily develops not only knowledge, but the habit of learning. The worker who practices diligence becomes excellence personified. Discipline transforms potential into proficiency. It converts dreams into systems and aspirations into achievements. The disciplined life may seem rigid to the casual observer, but within that structure lies the greatest freedom, a life governed by purpose rather than chance. Discipline also refines willpower, the central force that governs all achievement. Every act of discipline strengthens willpower, just as every muscle strengthens through resistance. When temptation arises and one chooses restraint, the will becomes fortified. Each decision to persist in the face of difficulty builds inner resilience. Over time, this cultivated strength becomes the secret power that separates the consistent from the complacent. The disciplined individual does not require perfect conditions to move forward. They create progress out of imperfection. They live by principle, not preference, and in doing so, they gain mastery over self, time, and destiny. The blueprint of self-discipline is, therefore, the silent architecture of greatness. It aligns thought, emotion, and action into harmony with purpose. It demands honesty, perseverance, and daily accountability. When practiced faithfully, discipline becomes a source of quiet power, the kind that builds empires, reforms habits, and restores lives. Those who surrender to discipline discover that it does not confine them. It liberates them from distraction and doubt. Through discipline, the ordinary mind becomes extraordinary. The scattered life becomes focused, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to express mastery. The disciplined person lives not by chance, but by design, crafting each day as a deliberate step toward destiny. Becoming the architect of tomorrow begins with the realization that life does not merely happen to you. It happens through you. Every individual possesses the innate power to design their destiny, to shape reality through intention, imagination, and disciplined action. The fragments of your past are not wasted materials, but the raw substance from which a greater structure can be built. The mind is the architect's workshop, thought is the blueprint, and action is the construction. When a person awakens to this truth, they cease living as a product of circumstance and begin living as a creator of circumstance. The future is not written in the stars, but drawn in the thoughts and habits of today. Every great life is the result of deliberate design, of someone choosing to rise above reaction and take conscious control of their direction. To become the architect of tomorrow, one must first master vision. Vision is the blueprint of the unseen. It gives shape to possibility long before it appears in reality. Without vision, effort becomes scattered and purpose fades into confusion. The architect of destiny closes their eyes to the chaos of the present and opens their inner sight to the order of what could be. They see not what is, but what can be, and that image becomes the magnet drawing life toward its realization. Vision must be detailed, alive, and charged with emotion, for the mind responds most powerfully to images that stir feeling. The more vivid the internal picture, the more surely the outer world conforms to it. The builder of the future must therefore guard their vision with discipline, never allowing doubt or fear to erode its form. Yet vision alone cannot construct reality. It requires the tools of imagination and faith. Imagination sketches the possibilities, while faith supplies the courage to begin building before the structure is visible. Every inventor, artist, and leader in history has first created in thought what they later manifested in form. The architect of tomorrow acts from this same principle. They move forward guided not by sight, but by conviction, trusting that each step taken with clarity will attract the necessary materials, ideas, opportunities, and people to complete the design. The world bends in favor of those who act as if their vision is already real. Such faith transforms obstacles into stepping stones, for every challenge becomes an essential part of the construction process. However, the architect's greatest challenge is not the external world, but the internal one. The mind must be trained to think with order, to build with precision rather than chaos. Many dream of success yet construct their future with the weak materials of doubt and inconsistency. The architect of tomorrow understands that a strong foundation is built from disciplined thought, self-belief, and consistent action. Each decision must align with the larger blueprint. Every habit must serve the purpose. They live intentionally, conscious that every choice lays a brick in the structure of their destiny. Neglect a single habit long enough, and cracks appear in the foundation. Strengthen it daily, and the edifice stands unshakable through any storm. The architect of destiny also learns the value of adaptation. Even the finest plans encounter change, for life is a living structure, not a static monument. When the unexpected arises, the true builder does not despair, they redesign. Flexibility becomes their greatest strength, for they understand that no delay or detour can destroy a dream that is anchored in purpose. The winds of change are not enemies, but partners, guiding the design toward perfection. The wise builder uses every setback as new material, reshaping the vision to fit evolving wisdom. In this way, every obstacle becomes an element of artistry, adding depth and resilience to the final creation. To design the future also requires responsibility. The architect cannot blame others for the shape of the structure they build. They must own their thoughts, emotions, and actions completely. The moment one takes full responsibility for their life, they claim the authority to change it. Responsibility transforms the victim into the visionary. It removes excuses and replaces them with empowerment. Every brick laid consciously brings the builder closer to mastery. Through this self-governance, the architect becomes not only a designer of outer success, but also a craftsman of inner strength and peace. Equally vital to creation is persistence. Many begin with excitement, but abandon their work when progress slows. The architect of tomorrow knows that great structures require time and endurance. They build daily, even when no one applauds, even when the results seem distant. Their reward is not immediate recognition, but the satisfaction of knowing that each effort contributes to a grander design. The rhythm of daily discipline transforms invisible effort into visible achievement. The persistent builder trusts that no labor of integrity is ever wasted. Every act of focus and faith is an investment in the architecture of destiny. As the structure of the future rises, the architect evolves with it. Each stage of creation requires a higher version of the creator. The person who begins the journey is not the same as the one who completes it. Growth becomes both the means and the result of building. The architect learns patience, humility, and wisdom through the process. They discover that the true purpose of creation is not the structure itself, but the transformation of the self through the act of building. The outer world becomes a mirror reflecting the inner mastery of the creator. Thus, becoming the architect of tomorrow is not about controlling every detail of life, but about aligning with the creative principles that govern it. It is the art of thinking deliberately, acting consistently, and believing unwaveringly. It is knowing that every thought is a design, every decision a cornerstone, and every action a step toward the manifestation of purpose. When one lives with this awareness, the fragments of the past cease to represent failure. They become sacred materials for a masterpiece yet to be finished. The architect of tomorrow does not wait for the future to arrive. They build it, one thought, one habit, and one act of faith at a time, until vision becomes reality and the dreamer becomes the designer of destiny.